hope all of you are enjoying this presentation sessions.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. 100%.
the basic purpose is for the presenter to work on that. During that time, there could be a rewinding of the concepts and a revisit and re-reflection is very likely to occur. And one, two, get more confident and more experienced in the art of presenting an idea to an audience through the medium of PowerPoint, which all of you do in a very wonderful way, because I have seen thousands of presentations where more than 80% of the time the people more or less read out what is written on the slide with one or two sentences rarely added. But every one of you keep that whatever points on the slide as a reference to talk about what the concept. And PPT is, of course, very advantageous so that the audience can anchor, linkage their perception to the concept or idea being written on the slide. And thirdly, as you listen to the presenter, you can perhaps also reflect the kind of learning engaged in by the presenter, and you can make a wonder about the kind of learning the presenter had vis-a-vis your learning. These are the three considerations we would extra polite into this experience. All right, welcome to every one of you.
Thank you, sir.
Especially Aisha Miracle is not actually well. Her mother called yesterday. But welcome, Ameya, Rajarishi. Make your presentation.
So, good evening, everyone. I hope you all had a very good day. So, I have named my learnings as a step within, because every learning I make would be a new step within me. That's why I thought of naming it as a step within. So, all of you can see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So, I don't know when the sessions started last year, but I have been always learning from Swami. But I learned more when I was in this session than I was with him alone. So when as a group, I learned a lot more than when I was alone. So thank you for that. So I'll start with the presentation. So it's just a poem I wrote. This I walked, worked, and made things up in my mind. I feel effortless of the effort I put in. Some change in thoughts of things I usually didn't feel different about. Walk alone in the crowd and noise until there is none. Look at you in the mirror of the self until there is only one. So I walked, worked, and made things up in my mind. That line, I wrote that line with the referent in my mind. So that is a learning I made out of the referent reality, the referent reality perception, and all of that. I comprised all of those into a single line. That is, I walked, worked, and made things up in my mind. I feel effortless of the effort I put in. Some change in thoughts of things I usually didn't feel different about. So after knowing the referent reality of a particular object, I can see much more than I used to see normally. It is what I meant in the first stanza. And the next one, walk alone in the crowd and noise until there is none. So there, I remember what I meant when I wrote it. But now what comes to my mind is that there's a lot of things I do not. There are a lot of things I did not notice before. Like there's a lot of noise. Yeah. So those two lines were I got, or it is a line that came to me after the session of the sound of the forest. So there is a lot of unwanted noises, or there's a lot of other noises which cover up the actually subtle and unheard sounds. So you should walk alone in all those in between or in those jungle of sounds or in the forest of sounds and wait until all those sounds is no more or only or wait until you hear the unknown or the unheard. I mean, see the unknown and hear the unheard. So that is walk alone in the crowd and noise until there is none. And the next one is look at you in the mirror of the self until there is only one. Yeah, so that is a line I came up with. But even actually after Tintinji's presentation and Ashwatiji's presentation, I got an idea because it is actually it's as if they helped me to write it. That is what I felt because in my mind when I was writing those lines, actually Tintinji and Ashwatiji were in my mind. So it actually means that you're looking through that small hole, waiting for that hose to pass. But and you have, but when the hose passes, I close my eyes. That I could feel. I mean, day before yesterday, I could feel that I closed my eyes when I was almost about to see it. And I was looking at the mirror, just like the mirror in my house, and I felt as if I could see someone else staring at me. Even though it was me staring at me, I felt as if it was someone else. But then I think I was a little bit scared of something that I don't know about. Like I think it is a fear of the unknown. So I think that is a moment where I closed my eyes when the horse passed. So that is look at you in the mirror of the self until there is only one. And that line means two different things. One is about the horse that passes, and you can only view the horse through that small hole, and you close your eyes exactly at that moment. That is one. The second thing I meant through this line is that actually, when you are connected to the nature, there's no tree. I mean, there is no tables, chairs, glasses, phones, etc., etc. There is only a single thing, that is nature alone, and we are all part of the nature. So it is just a single thing, just nature. So I don't think there is human beings, animals, and things like just nature alone. So that is until there is only one. Yeah. So the next slide is actually I had a learning.
It's 1945.
Yeah, I had a learning that made me realize a lot of things I never realized until now. I think for the past 3 days, I've been going through a lot of. I think I've been going through a dilemma within my mind. I think there are a lot of problems that go through my mind, but I don't know what the problem is. So it is a new experience, and it is an outcome. I think it's an outcome of my reflecting upon my learnings that I made through these sessions, and I think it's from that I had a realization. But it's not like realizing, oh, I can stand, or oh, I can sit. It's like realizing something else which you cannot describe, or which I cannot describe now how it is. So it is something from within. So that is what I meant by realization from within. Then the creature perspective. So that is based on the parable of the master woodcutter. That is uh, you focus on nothing else and only on the thing that you do. Just do. That don't think about the uh, is it. Don't think if it is hard or is it easy, or are there any interruptions or any problems, etc., etc. So I think then it is not you doing whatever you do. It's actually something else. That is the creature perspective. I feel that you actually do not walk, you do not talk, you do not sit. It's none of them is done by you. It is just a feeling from within that it is you who's actually sitting there, or standing, or walking around, or running, or even thinking. It is not at all you. It is just, I think it is already, all of it is already out there. It is just you have to reach it. So even when the master woodcutter was cutting the tree, when he was thinking that the animal was there, or the Satori was there, he had a lot of problems. I mean, he couldn't actually kill it when he wanted to kill that animal, that strange animal. But when he continued doing what he was doing, because that was what he had planned to do, he did not plan that when I go and if an animal comes and interrupts me, then I'll kill it. Nothing like that. Just his plan in mind, or what his creature had decided in the morning was it needs, or decided, or it wanted wood, wood, and by selling the wood, it gets food. So it's actually for the creature, it needs food. So he actually goes to the forest to cut the tree to get food, not to kill the animal. So I think just by doing what you do, or being truthful to what you do, whatever comes in between isn't a problem, or there are no interruptions. I don't think you'll feel, or you would be calm whatever the situation. That is what I think. That is the creature perspective in my words. And that's only one. Yeah, as I explained in the first slide, that line I wrote, that is only one. When you do whatever you do, and when you reflect, there is actually just one in the nature. That is just nature alone. That is what I meant here. So these are learnings I made from the master woodcutter. And the next one is the master thief. So from master thief, I have been reflecting upon this parable, or I have reflected on this parable quite a few times, even before I was a part of this session, when around 7 years back. But then and now, it has a very huge difference, because the amount of attention and the amount of reflection I do when reading the parable, or when thinking about it, is very different. So I actually learned that in the master thief, there is no learning that is made from outside. It's just visuals and understand, or just visuals and actions. But actually, the learning is done within, because anyone can take up a sword, but the right way to take up the sword was known by the first very. That would be a first person, like Swami says. That's the first person who actually did it for the first time. So if he could do it, then why can't you? So if he could do it, so that person never had a visual or had never seen it before. So I think there is a learning from within. So when every person learns from within about the things that are outside, that are not within, that is a greater learning than the normal learning that people make. That is when the master thief took his son to the feudal chief's palace, and when the son was in a problematic situation when his father left him there, learnings he made from within. Because as in the case study given, it is not said that he practiced 4 to 5 times before, 4 to 5 times to escape from a place. It might some probably his father might have described to him or given him small instances or probably given him small parables to reflect upon. And from that, he made a learning within. The son made a learning from within, which the father realized. And for sure, the son escaped. And that is why the father says, even a cat will escape. So it's a learning from within, as the cat is not taught to jump. As we have 2 kittens at home, I have noticed the mother cat doesn't teach the kittens to jump. The kitten just jumps. So probably there's a calculation before it jumps. So I think that is the part where it's learning within. Then point number 2, I would say that is the hidden details. Just learning isn't possible. That is, you have to learn within, but also have good or real reflective attention to details, to notice every detail. Because when the father escaped, made a sound and escaped, the son would have been, it's not for sure not ordinary. He's also unique. So he would have realized the very moment his father was not with him. Because when a person very close to you is always with you, and the very second he leaves you, you will have a small feeling that he is not with you. So when the father escaped, that moment he realized for sure. And there would have been small details his father left behind, like the way he escaped, or probably the sound he created, or the way they gotten, etc., etc. So that might have been the way, or that tension of the sun would have been really high. So I have made a learning that I have to learn within by giving or reflecting on the details I come across. I said I come across because I reflected about the mastery for the past 3 days and during our sessions. And the past 3 days I made other new or I got other new understandings from the parable, which I did not have in the during the sessions. So that is why I use the word come across. So there's always more details. Again, the more you go back and reflect upon something. And the next one is discovery in dilemma. That is a point that rose to me because when I read the parable once again, And then I realized that the son would have made a new discovery within the palace. A very new learning his father might have, oh yeah, his father might not have described to him when they were traveling to the feudal chief's palace. So that must have been the most important learning or discovery he made in this whole parable. Because it is a very problematic. He should make a discovery from within. That from that day onwards, he is not the same boy he was for all these years. That is discovery in dilemma. I feel that you make the most or the greatest learnings when you are in a problematic situation or in a dangerous situation or in an unforeseen situation. That is when you make the greatest learning. Not all the time, most of the times. Given that you look into the details and you're ready to adapt to the change, like Swami said in the last session. In the next one, the master cook. So actually, I did not want to give the title the master cook. I wanted to just name it the vast mindsets. Because in this parable, I learned that you have to have a very vast mindset if you have to become great. Because only if you could see, or if you could see all the details, you can be much more precise about the thing you want to talk about, or want to think about, or want to do. I mean, if you want to do something, you have to also know all the details in order to, I don't know, I'm confused when I was thinking about it, sorry. And I think there should be a very vast mindset. That is what I wanted to say. Yeah, and I have put the picture of an ocean because that is the most vast thing on this earth. And it is not, it is unshakable. It can't be, or there are no, like you can't manipulate it or do or create a difference unless it wants to bring in that change within. I mean, the ocean has to decide to be the way it is. You can't make it do what you want to. So I think if you have that great vast mindset, others won't be able to manipulate you or or they won't be an hindrance to you, a problem to you. They're all just small aspects on the way or on your journey. The next one is the sword-like.
It's 20 hours.
The sword-like attention. So the sword-like attention. I actually first named it just attention. But just attention is used a lot. Even in classrooms, it is used. It is used in a lot of places because half of the time people are not attentive. Especially I am not attentive at all most of the time. And every day, even today in the morning, I was asked to be more attentive. But I am trying to bring in that change or to be more attentive. But being under a guru like Swami, it is very hard to just bring small changes. Because when you think it is a big change, it is actually in that huge scale, it is not a very huge change. But now, after these sessions, I realized that small change itself is a big difference for me. Because before I was awestruck by that huge scale and not changing. But now I'm climbing that huge scale slowly. That is the change I had after these sessions. So that is talking about sword-like attention. So it should be really sharp, should be able to penetrate. It is when you're very attentive. For the past 3 days, I've been very attentive on the learnings. But then thinking about the learnings was very confusing for me because there is a lot of learnings I made. When the way I move has changed, when the way I used to cook has changed, the way I used to talk has changed, and a lot of other things. The way I'm looking at things has changed. When the morning when I was walking down to get milk, it's around 1 kilometer or not, I think around 1 kilometer. And when on my way back, I could see the mountains. I could see the garden at Kalamangalam. I felt as if I was looking at it for the very first time. I felt as if taking a movie based upon those beautiful sceneries. I felt like sitting right there on the road and writing a song looking at those beautiful things in nature, which I never looked at, even though I've been here for the past 12, 13 years. That is a part of sword like attention. That is what I felt. I was walking down, I was just thinking about random things. Most of the time, I'm childlike inside. I mean, in my mind. I would, for most of the time, I would be thinking about flying around, jumping. I mean, jumping long distances and flying. And I'm talking to myself uh, about things in nature. I had not thought about anything else. And but on the way back, I was just looking at things around, not thinking about anything. Just as if the mind was empty and I was just looking at things. Then I realized there is a different way in which you could use your attention. Then there is just attention alone. And that attention makes you think. And through that, I understood that even you're thinking about something is through attention, or it's because of attention you can think. It is because every human being on this earth has that power of attention that they can do things, they can think, they can wake up. Because you need attention to the sound when someone is calling you that, yeah, may I wake up? So if I have to wake up, I need that attention in me. So it is always there. I just have to sharpen it more. And I'm trying to sharpen it, but it's a little bit harder to sharpen it when I'm with Swami because his sword is as if it is made out of paper, but it can cut the strongest material ever in this universe. Because it might seem it is gentle and smooth, but it's really sharp that it can penetrate wherever it wants to. So I want to achieve that level of sharpness and attention. Then the sword like self. The sword like self. By when I was talking about sword like attention, I actually forgot what I meant by sword like self. Let me think. Sword like self. Yeah. So sword like self. That is when I reach that highest or that sword like attention I said, I think only then you start climbing towards the sword like self. Because only when you have that sword like attention, you reach that sharpness in self. About sharpness in self or sword like self, I'm trying to mean I can see it within what I'm trying to mean, but I can't bring it out in words. I'll try my best. There is I can't. Nothing is coming to my mind right now. I'm confused about that whole thing. So, like self, it's clear in my mind, but I can't bring it out in words. I'll try after some time, I think. Then the wanting to know. So that's the wanting to know. So actually, there are a lot of things around you, but you do not look at it. It's also because there are probably because of the lack of attention to details, or you just don't want to know. But when it is there, why not look into it? Why not want to know it? Like the master cook when he was, or the cook when he was in the samurai's monastery, he felt like, yeah, there is something as sword play, so let me learn that. Let me learn the art of sword. So when it is almost accessible, but still not accessible to him, why not try a hand? Why not try to learn that too? Why not learn something extra than you have already? So that is what I meant by wanting to know. That is the learning I made. I'm trying to create a wanting to know. So that also I'm trying to also cover the aspect of the knowing, the eagerness or that feeling from within that I also want to know this. I also want to get something new or something mysterious that I have not known until now. That is a new learning to me. Yeah, then from this, so thinking about this parable and the points I showed you in this slide, I came to some uh, other ideas, or I had some new understandings which I wanted to present here. That is thoughts, that your thoughts create things. So reflecting upon that parable, I felt that it is just your thoughts that create the things around. I felt as if none of this actually exists around me. Actually, none of the things around us actually exists. They just exist in your thoughts. That is what I felt. And that is an idea I had when I was reflecting on the parable of the master cook. And yeah, about talking about that 5,000 rupees. Yeah. So I was giving an example of a book that I have. So I have a thought about, yeah, I have a book. It might just, for example, if it is a cheap book, the thought about it changes. And I gave the same book, if I had paid 5,000 rupees to buy that book, again the thought changes. So, but the thing remains the same, but the value of the thing is within you. So I feel if the value of the thing is within you, then probably the thing is also within you. Because book wasn't there. They're just products made out of other raw materials. Book is a product made out of a raw material. So this book didn't exist here. It actually existed in someone's thought. But now it is here as a thing because someone once thought about it. So it doesn't actually exist here. I think it exists within me. So likewise, everything around you, from the time you're born, everything around you exists within you. It doesn't exist out there, it just exists within you. You might see it, but still that seeing is done by you, so it exists within you. Because I can't say otherwise, because the other way around I can never think about it. Now, I don't know if I would be able to think about it later on or in the future. But now I can't think the other way around, as it already exists outside. Because it is me who is looking at it, so it exists
It's
within me.
2015.
Then the mystery of things create the wonder. That is, the master cook had actually there was actually, I think this act of, or the sword play was actually a mystery to him because he could never experience it. So, out of the mystery, or that mystery that was created with him, or the wonder, I mean, the mystery that was created within him, made him wonder that what is it like to be a master samurai or to be a samurai. And his, out of that mystery, that wonder came, and out of that wonder, his wanting to learn the art of swordplay was originated. So I think more than wonder, it is out of the mystery of a thing or something you don't know. Out of that mystery, you have a wonder about it. And out of that wonder, you want to know about it. And I'm trying, because there are a lot of things right now. Everything is actually, I mean, a lot of things are not a mystery anymore. Like now, you can, if you want to fly, you can fly in an aeroplane. But before that, it was a mystery. Just that birds can fly. So out of the mystery that how can birds fly, then you start wondering that a mystery, I think, exists only for a split second. And out of that, there is wonder. And out of wonder, there is learning. Yeah, then this learning in secrecy, I added it here because uh, during Nityaji's presentation, she was talking about learning in secrecy. And I forgot actually what she was talking about it, but it's then I wanted to, it is because of Nityaji that I wanted to add that point. So thank you, Nityaji. I got a new point to talk about, or a new learning I made. That is, when by learning in secrecy here, I meant that there is someone within you who is learning without my knowing. I might be reading something, Or then I say, yeah, I'm learning, but it is not actually me who is learning. It's someone else or something else, something in me that is learning. I only have the word me to use. It is not me, that is something else that is learning. And I use the word secrecy because you don't know about it. Because until you learn and master the guitar, you don't know that you have learned or you have come a long way. Only when you reach the master, or when you reach the mastery, you can see that huge or the vast distances you covered during those years. So until then, it is a secret. And when you master something or when you understand something more, it is not a secret anymore. So that is a learning in secrecy in everyone. So everyone is learning something in secret. And one day they learn the secret. But then I think that moment you learn or reach that level where you know about the secrets that you learned or the secrets within you, then I don't think you can look at anything the same way anymore. Could be much, much more different than you were looking at it, even when you are at a higher level. So I'm going on to the next one. So the creating known out of unknown, and by doing so, be it. So here I wanted to use an poetic line to talk about knowing, doing, and being. So it is your urge to learn or your wanting to know something new, but that new is always actually that new is unknown to the self. So that is how I got the idea of creating known out of unknown. It might be that, but yourself is looking at, does not see it. It is you who you might see it, but yourself doesn't see it. So you know it, but it's unknown to the self. So creating known out of unknown, that is the process of knowing. And by doing so, and by doing so, I just use it like in a poetic way. But what I meant is, and that learnings you make out of the knowings you gather, then automatically there is the doing in that process. Because in order to know new things or to learn new things, reach a knowing, you need to go through a process of learning to reach that knowing. And when you reach that knowing, already the doing has been done. And by doing, you are the being. So that learnings have become knowings, and that knowings was the gateway, or the knowings helped helped you to do the doing, and the doing led you to the being. So all those unknowns are now knowns, and those knowns are now a part of the being. So creating known out of unknown, and by doing so, be it. Yeah, the vantage point of the other. It is actually now when I'm presenting before you, I feel as if it is in repetition. It is something I already explained in the first slide. That is, I have been reflecting upon the learnings I have made in the past 9-10 months. And by reflecting, I could feel as if there is no me. Like that instance I described, when I was looking in the mirror, I was scared of something, that someone else is looking at me, even though it is me staring at myself. So the vantage point of the other, that other is that something that I cannot describe, that something I saw in the mirror. That is that person or being or energy field that is always looking at me and looking at me and contributing to my being. And it always has a different point of view, which you never realize, or which I never realized, even though I have heard of the concept of double. But experiencing such or going through such an incident helped me know that there is some other, or as Swami says, the double. Probably it might be that what I saw, but that has a different point of view. And that moment, I got that idea of the vantage point of the other. So the other always has a different point of view about yourself, which you never realize. So now I want to know about that vantage point. So that is not a learning, that is something I want to learn. But it's a learning, it's a wanting to learn something new that I made out of the learnings until now. Then we discussed about or there were some instances where we discussed about the mental traps. But you're always actually free, and there is no mental traps. Like Swami says, when you're born, there is actually no mental traps the moment you're born, I think, probably. But the body is free with a mind full of traps. That is what I visualized when I was thinking about mental traps. So body is actually trapped within the mind. Like I said before, even the body exists in the mind. So the body is trapped in the mind. So I use this line, body with the mind traps. And when you are free of all the mental traps or the traps within the mind, your body also feels much more free. Which actually now it isn't. I could feel even in the morning when Swami wakes me up. I do not wake up in his first call or in his third call, which is actually irritating for Swami. But there is a mental trap within me, or there is a trap within me that doesn't allow me to wake up, or is weak, or wants to sleep more. Today morning, I was thinking about it. What in me is making me feel so what weak? I think I don't know the right word. What right word to use? What in me is not allowing me to wake up when I want to, or that is, I think that is also a mental trap. I have to learn to overcome a lot of other traps that I have within me right now, which I will in future. Then the Socratic questioning. It is questioning the answer. That is how I wanted to say talk about it. Because like when Newton saw the apple falling. For sure, he had the answer. They just fall, yeah. Why do apples fall? They just fall. But that wasn't a definite answer. So he questioned his own answers. So by that, he got new theories of gravity, etc. That Socrates also questioned the answers of the great people during those times. So by his questioning the answers of other people, he got new answers to his questions. So there are always, I think, Socratic questioning should be a question to the answer the other person gives you. By answer, I mean not the literal answer, I mean the understanding you make out of the answer from the other person. That is what I meant by questioning the answer. Then there is see the unknown and hear the unheard sounds of the self. So this is a point I wrote when I was reflecting upon the parable of the sound of the forest. I felt it is much more important to reflect upon the unheard sounds within you and the unknown things you will not be able to see within you. I think you have to reflect
It's
upon that
2030.
first. Even when the prince was sitting there in the forest, he actually was, by listening or by trying to be sort like attentive to the sounds around him. He was actually trying to listen more from within. It was something from within us that gives him the willpower to listen and sit again and again to listen to the sounds outside. So there should be a sound from inside that pushes you. And by realizing where or what is that sound from within, helps you to get more connected to the nature. And by listening, as you're a part of the nature, by listening to the unheard sounds and by seeing the unseen within you, you can know and see and understand and hear more in the nature also. And in the last session, Swami was saying that you have to allow the transition. So I wrote that point down in the book, allow the transition. I don't know why I wrote it down. And yesterday I was thinking or reflecting why I wrote that point down when a lot of other points weren't written down. I wrote 4 to 5 points, and this was one of the points. But something in me or made me feel that it is very important because there's a lot of changes that happen which you never realize, and mostly because you don't realize that change doesn't ever have a very big impact in you. But when you realize and allow the change to flow freely or help the change more, only then there is actually a transition within you. Only then there is real change. That is learning, that is allowing the transition and overcoming the speed trap. I felt as that was also a part of this parable. For yeah, the prince would never have been or never had the speed trap. because he is already, I think this is his last test. He already might have learned the art of sword and all other tactics he could use in war, etc. So all of that needs patience. If you have the speed trap, you can't master all of that. But you need a much more greater patience to sit alone in the forest and fight the fears and fight the knowings you already have. And if there is that speed trap to somehow to go show the master that this is what I've learned, this is what I learned, then there is less of new learnings made, because your realization of a new learning and then going to tell someone that you made a new learning, or acknowledging or needing the acknowledgement of someone that you made a new learning, and there's a lot of time and that connection, and that there was a point where you reached to get the new learning. But if you sat a little bit more and reflected more on the new learning, you must have reached much more than you had to in that moment. It is because of that speed trap, the prince in the first, it's because of the speed trap and the knowings he had already. He went the first time and told the master that he heard all the sounds. But the master realized and sent him back. But there, the second time he goes, he's much more humbled and is much more patient. And then there is no speed. He's much more calm. He just wants to reach that stage where he actually knows from within that he has reached. That is when he goes back and tells the master that he has heard the sound of the flower blooming and the leaves falling. I think I don't remember the exact lines. So I have to overcome the speed trap, which I have a lot. Yeah, so that is all, and with that, I'm ending my presentation. Thank you so much.